Hey Lions faithful, welcome back to Lions News Fan Report, your go-to source for all the breaking news, insider updates, and deep analysis on our beloved Detroit Lions. Today I've got something that's going to make you think about the future of this franchise in a way you probably haven't considered yet. This isn't just another game recap or injury update. This is about the foundation of everything we've built, about the guys who make it all possible in the trenches, and about a decision that could reshape our offensive identity in ways we need to start preparing for right now. So stick with me, because what I'm about to share is going to change how you look at our roster moving forward. And trust me, you're going to want to hear every single detail before you form your opinion on this. Let me paint you a picture of where we are right now as a franchise. The Detroit Lions have built something special over the past few years, and if you've been paying attention, you know that the secret sauce to our success hasn't just been about flashy skill players or defensive playmakers. It's been about the men in the trenches, the offensive line that creates the lanes, protects our quarterback, and sets the tone for everything we do offensively. General Manager Brad Holmes understood this from day one, and he's been crystal clear about his philosophy when it comes to maintaining dominance up front. After last season, Holmes dropped a metaphor that perfectly encapsulates his approach to roster construction, especially along the offensive line. He said, and I'm quoting here, that you've got to keep the whole garden watered at all points, because that unit is the engine for everything this team does. Think about that for a second, the whole garden. Not just one plant, not just the flowers that are blooming right now, but the entire ecosystem. That's forward thinking at its finest, and it's exactly the kind of mindset that separates championship organizations from pretenders. Now Holmes hasn't just been talking the talk, he's been walking the walk in a major way. If you look at his draft strategy over the past couple of years, you'll see a clear pattern emerging. In the most recent draft back in April, the Lions selected 2 offensive linemen. Tate Ratledge has already established himself as a legitimate force at right guard, and scouts are even projecting him as a potential center down the road if we need to shift things around. Then there's Miles Frazier, whose versatility along the interior gives us options we didn't have before. The year before that, in 2024, Holmes doubled down again by drafting offensive tackle Giovanni Manu and guard Christian Mahogany. That's 4 offensive linemen in 2 drafts, folks. 4. That's not an accident. That's a deliberate strategy to ensure we never fall behind in the one area that matters most. But here's where things get interesting, and this is where you need to pay close attention, because this is the part that's going to make you understand why today's topic is so crucial. Despite all that investment, despite all that talent infusion, we're facing some realities that every successful franchise eventually has to confront. The unit isn't quite performing at the same elite level we saw in previous seasons, and there are legitimate reasons for that. We lost center Frank Ragnow to retirement last offseason, which was a massive blow. Then Christian Mahogany, one of those recent draft picks I just mentioned, has been sidelined with an injury that's kept him off the field. These are the kinds of setbacks that test organizational depth and planning. And speaking of Ragnow's retirement, let me tell you something that probably didn't get enough attention at the time. The Lions gave him all the space he needed to make his decision, which is the right thing to do for a franchise cornerstone like that. But when he finally announced his retirement in early June, it created a timing issue. By that point, free agency had already passed, the draft was already over, and the offseason plan to replace him couldn't be shaped the way the front office might have preferred. Now, I'm not criticizing anyone here. Sometimes these things happen, and you deal with them. But it does illustrate the importance of being proactive rather than reactive when it comes to roster management, especially at premium positions. So, where does that leave us right now? Well, the offensive line remains an absolute priority for this organization, and Holmes has made it abundantly clear that he's going to keep watering that garden no matter what. But here's the thing that should have every Lions fan thinking about the future. 2 of our current starting offensive linemen are over 30 years old. In the NFL, that's getting up there, especially for guys who bang bodies in the trenches every single Sunday. Father Time is undefeated, as they say, and smart organizations don't wait until it's too late to plan for succession. This brings me to the heart of what I need to tell you today, and this is where things get really interesting. ESPN's Field Yates just released a new mock draft for 2026, projecting all 32 first-round picks based on the inverse standings through Week 14. Now, mock drafts this far out are always speculative, but they give us a window into how analysts and scouts are thinking about team needs and available talent. And guess what position Yates has the Lions targeting with the 17th overall pick? You guessed it. Offensive tackle, specifically, Yates has Detroit selecting Caleb Lomu, the left tackle from Utah. Now, before I dive into who Lomu is and why this makes so much sense, let me tell you why this projection exists in the first place. It's not just about maintaining depth or adding competition. It's about preparing for a very real possibility that one of our cornerstone players might not be here much longer. And I'm not talking about injury or a trade. I'm talking about retirement. Taylor Decker, our starting left tackle, is already 31 years old. He's been an absolute rock for this franchise, a consummate professional who's protected our quarterback's blind side for years. But here's the reality. Decker recently made some comments to Dave Burkett of the Detroit Free Press that have people around the league taking notice. He suggested that he'll consider retirement after this season. Now, let me be clear, he hasn't made a final decision yet, and it sounds like he'll take his time to evaluate everything once the season wraps up. But the fact that retirement is even on the table means the Lions need to have a succession plan ready to go. Decker still has 2 more years left on his current contract, so even if he decides to play out the remainder of his deal, the clock is ticking. The Lions can't afford to wait until the last minute to find his replacement. Left tackle is one of the most important positions on any football team. It's a premium spot that requires a rare combination of size, athleticism, technique, and football IQ. You can't just plug anyone in there and expect it to work. You need to draft the right guy, develop him properly, and ideally give him a year or 2 to learn before he takes over full-time responsibilities. This is where Caleb Lomu enters the conversation, and let me tell you, this kid is the real deal. Lomu plays left tackle for Utah at 6'6" and 304 pounds, which is an ideal frame for the position at the NFL level. But it's not just about size. What makes Lomu special is how he moves. Scouts rave about his fluidity, his footwork, his ability to mirror edge rushers in pass protection. He's described as steady in virtually every way, which is exactly what you want from your left tackle. You don't need flash at that position. You need reliability, consistency, and dependability. In the running game, Lomu is a gifted striker who can move defenders off the line of scrimmage and create lanes for running backs. In pass protection, he's been absolutely locked down. Get this, Lomu did not allow a single sack this entire season at Utah. Not one. And he gave up only 6 pressures all year. 6. That's an absurd level of consistency for a college tackle, especially in a conference as competitive as the one Utah plays in. Those numbers tell you everything you need to know about his technique, his awareness, and his ability to handle elite competition. Now here's something else you should know. Lomu isn't even the most well-known offensive tackle on his own team. Utah also has Spencer Fano, who plays right tackle and is widely regarded as a possible top 10 pick in the draft. Yates has Fano going 8th overall to the Arizona Cardinals in his mock. So Utah is producing 2 potential first-round offensive tackles in the same draft class, which is pretty remarkable. But here's the interesting part. According to ESPN draft analyst Jordan Reed, Lomu is actually ranked as the top offensive tackle in the entire 2026 class right now, ahead of his teammate Fano. Why is that? Well, scouts believe Lomu has more upside than Fano, particularly as a left tackle. There is some speculation that Fano's NFL future might actually be at guard rather than tackle, which would obviously lower his value a bit. Lomu, on the other hand, projects cleanly to left tackle at the next level, and that positional versatility gives him a significant edge. He's also considered a potential riser once the pre-draft process ramps up with the combine, pro days, and individual workouts. The more teams get to know him, the higher his stock is likely to climb. So, let's connect all the dots here. The Lions have made offensive line a priority for years. They've drafted multiple linemen in consecutive drafts. They've lost a franchise center to retirement and are dealing with injuries to other key pieces. They have 2 starting linemen over 30 years old. One of those starters, Taylor Decker, has openly discussed the possibility of retirement. And now, in a new mock draft, a respected analyst has Detroit taking a left tackle in the first round, who's considered the top tackle prospect in the entire class. Do you see where this is headed? This isn't about panic or desperation. This is about smart, proactive roster management. Even if Decker decides to play out his contract, the Lions would be wise to draft his eventual successor sooner rather than later. Think about it this way. If they take Lomu in April, he could spend a year learning behind Decker, getting acclimated to the NFL game, and preparing to take over when the time comes. That's the ideal scenario for developing a franchise left tackle. You don't want to throw a rookie into that spot on day one unless you absolutely have to. You want to give him time to develop, to learn the nuances of the position, to build chemistry with his line mates. And let's be real for a second. If Decker does decide to retire after this season, the Lions will need a plan immediately. They can't go into next year without a legitimate answer at left tackle. That's a recipe for disaster, so whether Decker plays 1 more year or 2 more years or decides to hang it up this offseason, the Lions need to be prepared. Taking Lomu or another top tackle prospect in the first round would be a smart move regardless of the timing. Brad Holmes has shown time and time again that he's not afraid to plan ahead, to invest in the future even when the present looks solid. That's the mark of an elite general manager. He's not reactive, he's proactive. He's watering the whole garden, just like he said. And if that means using a first-round pick on a left tackle when we still have a solid starter at the position, so be it. That's the kind of thinking that keeps championship windows open for longer than a couple of years. Now, I want to hear from you. What do you think about this potential scenario? Should the Lions use their first-round pick on Caleb Lomu or another offensive tackle if Decker is considering retirement? Or would you rather see them address a different position and figure out the left tackle situation later? Do you think Decker will actually retire, or is he just weighing his options? Whether that means drafting Lomu, targeting a different tackle, or finding another creative solution, I trust the process. This organization is built on a foundation of smart decision-making, and that's not going to change anytime soon. If you want to stay locked in on all the latest Lions news, rumors, and analysis, make sure you're subscribed to Lions News Fan Report. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an update, and smash that like button if you found this breakdown valuable. We're here every single day bringing you the insights and information you need to stay ahead of the curve. Thanks for watching, and as always, let's keep roaring together. One pride.